Okay, so hi ladies, we'll just give a couple of minutes for people to get on. It is just 7:30 Wednesday evening, the 2nd of May, and we have got our live coaching call here. I've got the lovely Sarah Jew here from A Simple and Contented Life joining me this evening, and I'm just going to give it literally a few seconds and we'll babble for a couple of seconds, just to give you some time to come on and just to make sure it's actually in group. Just checking now on my phone, and we are live in the group. So tonight's call is called How to Follow Your Bliss by Living a Simple and Contented Life. So it's actually in group. A mixture. Sorry, is that yours or mine?
That's all right. That's mine. I've turned up.
Okay. Okay, so tonight's call is called How to Follow Your Bliss by Living a Simple and Contented Life. And as I said, I've got Sarah Jew here with me. She's one of our lovely ladies from the group, and she's also, her coaching company is called A Simple and Contented Life. And we're going to talk a lot more about that through tonight's call. If any of you are there watching, whoever's live here on Facebook, please do come and say hello. Let us know that you're there. I'm going to be keeping my eye out on the eyes in the live group on Facebook. Please do. I've done it now. Look, keeping my eyes on the eye and seeing who's here. So please do come and say hello. Come and put your comments in the comments box. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on that so that you can join in with what we're talking about this evening, get any questions answered, and just let us know what you're thinking and whether or not it's resonating with you. So if you want to send us some hearts or some thumbs up, we'll certainly love to see those as well. So I'm just going to run through again, first of all, before we start, literally what we're going to talk about tonight. And we started off by asking you some questions, whether, do you ever feel like you are the wheel responsible for keeping your family and your business turning, and that the buck stops with you? And I think there's a lot of ladies within the group that do feel like that. And I know there's a lot of women that I talk to that, you set up in your own business, you're looking for that freedom and the fun and the flexibility and the bit of being able to work around your families. And then actually there are times when I know as well that there were some single mums in the group that are just feeling like, this is it. This is my business. This is the buck stops with me. I'm the one that's got to, keep earning and keep the money coming in and, keep the work going and still enjoy it, because I'm doing something that's, we're doing things that we're passionate about. And I know that sometimes feeling like everything stops with you can take the passion out of what it is that we're doing. So we're going to talk a bit about that. And we've sort of said, at the same time, are you working too many hours and wish you can find another way to step into being the woman that you've got the potential to be? Because, again, that whole thing of being busy and going nowhere fast and feeling like you've got so much to do that you're not actually getting anywhere, because as fast as you take one step forward and it's having that thing of never feeling like, sometimes you can feel like you haven't got the moment in between to take the breather and relax and really celebrate the things that you're doing, because there's always something else on that to-do list to do. We're going to be talking tonight about how you can slow down, create the time and space to not only work on your business but in it as well, because actually that's where the magic happens, when you're able to come away from doing the working in it and sort of being able to work on it and have that kind of step back from it. And also create that in a way that gives you more quality time with the ones you love, and to be able to do the things you love, because we've all got these dreams and these things, as well as working with the people that we're working with. These dreams are the things that we want to bring into our lives, the things that we want to do for our children. So we're going to be looking at that. So what we've said we're going to cover tonight for you in this life coaching session is how you can assess what you really want from your life so that you can manifest it into your reality with grace and ease. We're going to look at helping you to identify the areas that are weighing you down so that you can reduce all of the mental and physical clutter, because one of the things we're going to look at is the fact that when you've got physical clutter around you, that is, it creates that mental clutter as well. We're going to help you to find ways to prioritise your time and eliminate the overwhelm so that you can get back on track and stay ahead of the game. And we're going to also help you to find ways to focus on your well-being so that you can start to give yourself the love that you need, and so that you can really be the woman that you've got the potential to be. So that's what we're promising to deliver for you tonight. And we're going to show you how a few simple tweaks to your business and your family and your home life, and by learning how to love yourself that little bit more, you can really create that life that you love. So that is our golden promise for you tonight in this course. Please do. I'm just going to have a check and make sure that I turn this down so that I can see any comments that are coming up and see anybody of you that's watching. So I'm just going to do that for a quick session and then turn the volume down on this and see who we've got there. We have got an eye on us, whoever you are. Let us know who you are. Just send us some thumbs up or some hearts, because we're doing this via Zoom as well. So when you do it via Zoom, you can't actually see on the screen here. I have to keep looking at my phone to see who's there. But let's get started. Let me first of all introduce to you Sarah. So Sarah is she's incredibly passionate about helping others to slow things down, find more balance and create a life that they love. So Sarah is the founder of the blog A Simple and Contented Life. And if you haven't looked at her blog or gone over and read it, please do go and do so, because all of her blog posts are absolutely amazing and they're so helpful. There are so many tips in there. There really are. In every single one of her posts, there's lots and lots of tips that you can really easily bring into your everyday life. And of course, all of the other downloadables and stuff that you do, which Sarah, you're going to get a chance to tell people about this evening. But yeah, so if you haven't been over and had a look at it, please do, because it's fantastic and it's beautiful as well. So it's lovely to look at the same time. It really is beautiful. So her mission is to help busy, overwhelmed mums take back control, find more time for themselves and live a family life that's less stressful and more enjoyable. She's a proud mum of 2 and besotted wife. Sarah's also the owner of a Frenchy pup called Arthur. And when she isn't blogging, she can be found in her favourite Starbucks with a hazelnut latte in one hand and a good book in the other. So yeah, and I love that. It's a lovely intro, and it's true. We love to find out more about people, who, not just what they do in business, but their lives as well. So that's what we're here for in this group, is to really get to know one another and be there as support for one another. So, and I really appreciate you being in the group, because it's been really good.
Thank you.
So first of all, though, Sarah, now I've kind of told everybody a little bit more about what you do. Tell us a bit about. So how did you start doing it? How did you start doing the work that you do? How did you get to where you are now?
Okay, so hi everybody. The backstory really led me to set up A Simple and Contented Life is that in April 2016 I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it completely sort of turned our world upside down and pulled the rug out from underneath our feet, and didn't know at the time what the outcome was going to be, but it completely changed my outlook on life. Fortunately, I'm now in remission and all is going well, but it just made me to realise that life is precious, that it goes way too fast. You never really know what's going to happen. And made me reevaluate everything that I was doing with my life, and the way that I was, to question what mattered and what I wanted to achieve, who I wanted to be, and what family life was looking like for us. And I wanted to do what I could to make life less stressful and more enjoyable, and get rid of the overwhelm, eliminate the unessentials, so that I could spend more time with family, and then wanted to help others to do the same. So set up A Simple and Contented Life, which is my little hub and space on the internet for busy mums to find all the help and support they need, to make life less complicated, and just to let them know that we're all going through the same struggles, the same life and parenting struggles, and that there are things that you can do to slow things down and take back control and create a life that you love. And the site shares ways to carve out more time with family, create a home you love, and make your well-being a priority. And it's full of resources so that you can focus on your own goals and actually spend time on doing things that matter, rather than being distracted by the day-to-day things. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and you've got lots of lovely different resources on there that people can download to help them. And I know I've used some of them myself.
Excellent.
Especially it just helps you to organise things in a much better way as well, and also to see things in a more simple way. When you're trying to do something and you can look and literally say, well, actually, I'm looking at this and this is all I really need to do, and I just need to cover these areas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without getting kind of overwhelmed with everything. It's good to help focus and just to know where you need to put your focus.
Yes. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's just being able to identify your priorities and not get distracted by the noise that's going on and the things that you think you should be doing but aren't actually necessary. So yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Okay, so the first thing we said we were going to help people with was how to assess what you really want from your life so that you can manifest it into your reality with grace and ease. So what do you think, I mean, with your experience and the work that you're doing with helping people to create that, I mean, I know sort of from myself and with the angle of, where we're looking at creating that blissful life, what do you think are the biggest problems that women have, initially with that?
I mean, initially it's identifying what it actually means to you, because it's all very well saying that we want that and we want to have a more contented life and a happier life, but it's knowing what that means to you in the first place and being able to identify that. And then once you've got that, you've got your destination, and you just need the roadmap then to make it happen. And I think it's just eliminating the distractions and the overwhelm, and actually being able to identify what your priorities are and making them your priority and creating a plan to make that happen.
Yeah. And do you find, I know, I talk about this a lot, where, very often people tend to think, a lot of times, it is that getting that clarity around what it really is that you want from your life and what your priorities are. Mm-hmm. Because we can get so caught up in what we think it should be or what we see other people doing. And so we think, oh, well, I need to have it like they've got it. Or, we see, there's so much, especially on social media, of seeing, the different ways that people are living their lives or showing that they're living their lives. And, and when you're there and you're trying to run a family and you're trying to run a business and you're seeing all of this, I'm always talking about the comparison trap and kind of, and how that can drag you in. But do you, I find, with doing the work that I do, that women often get caught up in thinking the thing that they think that they're after, the thing that they think that they want, isn't actually really what it is. It's just what they think it should be, or where they're looking and seeing what other people are doing and have got. And sometimes, you can look and think, oh, that looks like that person's living a really nice life. I'd like to do that. But in reality, would you really want to do that?
Yeah.
Because what does that involve? I mean, often, I've even had with people, when you're talking and they say, oh, you see that lots of travel and stuff like that. And, there's so much on the internet and on social media where you're seeing people in glorious locations. And yes, we all like to do that, because we all know what it feels like when we get to go on holiday and we get to relax and we get to pick these lovely destinations around the world and that sort of thing. And we do see a lot of that. But actually, in reality, when I talk to some women, a lot of times it's, well, I wouldn't really want to do that permanently a lot, because actually I've got family here that I want to see and I wouldn't really want to be away from my family. Or, I've got my parents and I wouldn't want to be that far away and be constantly around the world and not be with my parents, or not be with, we've got other things going on, but it looks nice and it is a desire. But is it really the true desire? Is that something that you'd like to do more regularly, for example, rather than being you actually want to be able to just travel the world and never come back kind of thing? Yeah. It's getting clear on that and knowing that, isn't it? You can see other people doing that and think, that looks great, I'd love to be able to do that, and just sort of go from one place to another. But do you really want that? And how some people will say, oh, I only want to, at the same time, it's having that reality check as well, that because actually if you want a business that's going to give you a certain amount of income for a certain amount of things, it's dependent on what you're doing. It's very rare to find something that you can only do in one day a week or whatever. So you've got to have some reality in that.
Yeah, definitely.
What it takes to get there and what it takes to do that. But what else do you find, you think, sort of with that, with getting really clear, how that shows up for people and why sometimes people, because I think we very often do desires lists and stuff like that. But why is that? Why doesn't that just work off the bat? What is it about that? Because often we've all got these desire lists, and yet people, and yes, we could do the vision boards and all of that. Yeah, I want these things. What do you think is things that actually stop people from really achieving that?
The desires list is, you can say that you want to go traveling and you want to do this and that and compare things to what other people are doing, but that necessarily doesn't, like you were saying, is not the reality of what they actually want. It's by saying you want that, maybe it's that you want more excitement in your life, or you want to do more things exploring and have more time with family, but it doesn't necessarily equate to traveling. And other things, I've lost my train of thought. forgot what I was going to say. Ask me the question again. My mind's gone.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you think the biggest thing is that stops women from, even when they work out what it is that they want, that stops people from actually realizing, achieving that?
A lot of it is fear, I think, is holding themselves back and scared of dipping their toes in the water, and worrying about what other people are going to say, isn't it, as well, of, well, why do you want to do that, and what makes you think that you should be doing that, and not being able to live up to the expectations of other people, and trying to fit the mold so that you are keeping up with the Joneses, and doing what other people expect you to do, and living your life so that you are making other people happy rather than actually following your own and doing what you want to do to make you happy. And I think that can hold a lot of people back and stop people from actually being really honest about what they want and what makes them happy, because they're being reserved because they don't want to upset other people or disappoint other people, or be brave enough to step away and carve their own path. And actually it can be scary, because if everybody else is doing the same thing and you've got desires to do something else, but you're not brave enough to step away from the pack and create your own path, it can hold you back and stop you from doing that. Yeah, it can be scary, and not being brave enough to venture out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is that kind of, as well, like you say, stepping away from having everybody kind of look at feeling that people might be judging you for wanting something different.
Yeah, definitely.
What everybody else wants, and being honest. So, part of this, I think, is so much about honesty and really learning to be really honest with yourself.
Yeah.
About what it is that you really want, and sometimes what it is that you don't want, so that you can find what you want.
Yeah, you've also got to be honest, and sometimes that can be hard and hold people back as well, because being honest about the things that you don't want in your life can mean some hard truths of facing up to some realities of things that you don't necessarily want to have to deal with. Of, maybe you're not happy in your relationship or the area you live or your job, and then because of that it would mean a change, and that's scary as well. And it would force you to actually confront some things that maybe you're not ready to deal with yet, or you're not wanting to deal with, but underneath that you have to deal with those head on at some point if you want to be happy. And you're never going to be truly happy unless you actually deal with those things that are holding you back or stopping you, or that you're hiding from. So, yeah.
Totally. And then it's far easier to stay in the comfort zone, even if it's a discomfort zone.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
To stay in the discomfort of what we, what we think is the comfort zone, than it is to actually step into the gap of I don't know what, I don't know exactly how this is going to work out, but I'm not happy. And I think it's about to find out what makes you happy, you've got to be honest about what's making you unhappy.
Definitely.
And I think that's scary for people to admit. This particular thing doesn't make me happy, or I'm not totally happy right now. And to actually be able to admit that and to be truthful about that with themselves, it doesn't mean to say they've got to blast it out to everybody, but at least with themselves to say, I'm not happy with this area and I want something different.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? But actually admitting it to yourself is the first step, but it's a really hard step to actually take and confront and those home truths, and being a little bit harder on yourself, and actually really digging deep and finding out what it is. Because that, you're right, staying in your comfort zone, it doesn't matter how bad that comfort zone is, it's that status quo thing, isn't it, that you want to, it's safer, because if you step out from that, you're into an unknown. What if it fails? What if I fall flat on my face? What if I look stupid? And then there's the going back afterwards and people saying I told you so, and all of that, isn't there? And to just and be brave to let go of that and actually say, do you know what, I don't care, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to follow that path. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least I've tried is a huge step forward.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing though, isn't it? Because as we said, when you're being, if you have that level of honesty with yourself, the thing is, at that point when you have that thing of being, when you get to that point when you are totally 100% honest with yourself, then you have to go, then I've got to do something about it.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Because it's that fear of it.
Okay. I've just been totally, the honesty, the truth of the situation is this, and now I've admitted that even to myself. I can't not, I've got to do something about it. So we avoid, the avoidance around the actually being totally honest about it. even if that honesty is kind of going mad as a little fault, kind of it wants to come up and it wants to be known, but actually going, yeah, that's what it is. If you admit that, you've got to do something about it.
I think that's once you've admitted it sometimes, as well as, and once you start digging deep, sometimes you don't always know what it is that you're not happy with or what it is that you want to make you happy. But when you start digging and you start asking yourself questions and you start evaluating all the areas of your life and questioning those things, sometimes it can be a bit of a light bulb moment where something clicks and it goes, and then you're like, oh, okay, actually, yeah, that's what's triggering that. That's why I'm feeling stressed about that. And that's not actually the reason I thought why I was unhappy. It's this, but because of that, it's making me feel like this about that area. And then once you can work that out, then you can say, right, okay, this is where I am now. Where do I want to be? What is it that is going to make me happy? And you can then start working out and figuring out what you need to do.
Okay, so what's your top tip in this area? If we're saying, okay, this is about how to assess what you really want from your life so that you can manifest it with grace. What's your top tip?
I think is spend some time sitting down and really think about it, of asking yourself what excites you, what fires you up, what gives you a buzz, and then looking at every area of your life and breaking it down into home, into work, into your finances, into the free time that you have, your family, and look at all of those areas and ask yourself why you want to change things, what's prompting you feeling this way, what in each area leaves you frazzled and exhausted and overwhelmed, what frustrates you, why are you feeling stuck in a rut, why are you not happy, and what changes that you actually want to bring about. And then when you've established that, it's what's working, what isn't working, and then asking yourself, if you come up with some changes that you want to make, is actually asking if those changes are realistic, and what you need to be able to actually put those into place, and to not be afraid of being really honest about what it is that you want, and just because it doesn't, that's up to them, and they have a choice if they can either follow and join you, and the right people will stay with you. The right people that are there for you will be happy for you, whatever it is that you choose to do. So I think, it's just really questioning and digging deep.
Okay, brilliant. We're losing you slightly, a little bit here. I don't know whether thing with your internet. Sorry. So some of that I heard, some of it I didn't. It was kind of frozen a little bit. But so am I right? So the gist of what you're saying there is, it's about being comfortable as well with the fact.
Oh no.
You're still there? You back? Oh, right, I've got you back, I think. Yeah?
I'm back. Yeah, oh, no.
So the gist of that was, and it's something that I always say to people as well, is, do you know what? You've got to get comfortable with the fact that sometimes you're going to make choices and decisions that other people are going to be pissed off about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And other people, and you've got to get comfortable with that, because if you're constantly, if you spend all of your time thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that, somebody else isn't going to be happy about it, you can't please everybody anyway. And actually, are they doing the same for you? You've got to, I'm not saying that means, going completely against, all of the people in your immediate family. You discuss that and you work out what fits for all of you. And what's good, what works out, and that meets all of your needs, because it's about meeting the needs, isn't it? But sometimes you just have to get comfortable with the fact that you might make choices and decisions that other people aren't going to like.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it?
Got to get comfortable with that.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got to be not afraid of being able to step out and being the person that you want to be. I've always had one of the sayings that I've always used with myself is, it doesn't matter how fast you run, you're always stuck with you. So whatever you do with your life, you've got to be happy with it, because you could move to another county, you could move to another country, you could change your job, but you're still stuck with you. So unless you're absolutely honest about what it is that you want and what makes you happy, and you do things to make that happen, then you're never going to be happy. You've got to be honest and raw, and just go with what's right for you, rather than trying to fit yourself into a mold that somebody else is expecting of you. Because if you do that, then you're not being true to yourself, and you're not being the person that you know that you're capable and want to be, and that leads to frustration as well. And absolutely.
And that's it. And it's you've got to live your life for you and for the things that you want to do. And actually, by doing that as well, you're showing your children that it can be, that it doesn't have to be the way that everybody, showing them that that's possible. And I'm such a big, I'm totally so passionate about the stuff, everything that we do and the way we are living our lives and the way we're showing up is the gifts that we're giving to our children. So if we're acting as though I'd really like to do this, but I'm not going to do it because I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about, and being in fear, them to be the same. That's the gift that we're giving them, and what they need to be able to, and what they need from us is to know that, yeah, do you know what? That is scary, but I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm gonna do it. Absolutely. Yeah. I always say to both boys, just go and do it. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If you think it's something that feels right for you, or it's something that you want to explore, it's something you want to find out more about, or you want to go a different route than what everybody else is doing, so what? It doesn't matter. Just because it doesn't conform to what other people believe, go for it.
And I think it's good to be that, as I say, to be honest with them at the same time and say, yeah, this is scary. I don't know how this is going to pan out, and I have got fears and things that are coming up for me that I could allow to convince me to not do something, but this is actually feels right, and I know that that's the stuff that's holding me back. And so therefore I'm going to do it. And then they see you, because it's half the time it's not what we say to our kids, it's what we do, isn't it? Well, the majority of the time, not even half the time. It's not what we say, it's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we do, isn't it? And how we react to something and the way we behave. They're constantly watching us. So yeah, they learn from it. They learn from our actions, from our behaviors. They learn from the way we react to something, and that, they pick up on that, and then they think, oh, okay, so that's happened. That's how I need to respond to something, and that's how their behaviors are developed. So you've got to, if you go in with being open-minded to things and not being afraid to do things, then they'll learn that too, and it's good for them. It stops them from holding themselves back when they're adults, and that's what we want our kids when they're grown up to be well-rounded, confident individuals, and it's our job to do that for them and help them and show them the way to do that. And that means that we also have to do it for ourselves too.
Exactly, because you've got to show the way. That's our jobs, isn't it? Is to show the way.
It is, yeah. That's what we're here for.
Brilliant. So what we're saying is to literally sit down and get really clear with what it is that you want. Look at all of those different areas of your life, and just literally, even if you do it as like a score sheet, a score where you are, and then look at
definitely.
Why did I score that? I don't know, score it out of 10. Why did I score that at a 5? What stopped me from scoring it, making it a 6? What's the gap between there? And if I was to score it at an 8 or a 10, what would be in that space? What would be happening? What would I be doing? How would I be living? How would I be showing up? To look at each one and start to sort of see, this is what it is that, these are the things.
That's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, and pick one. Start with one. Is that what you say?
Yeah.
Pick one and just...
That's it, isn't it? Absolutely, definitely start with one, pick one and go with it. And scoring it like that is a really, really good way of doing it, because you can identify then which one is sitting right at the bottom of the scale, because that then is your priority and that's your focus area. And then if, like you say, one is a 6 or a 7, and you can ask yourself, what is the 10? What would the 10 mean? What is my goal to, what would that area look like to me if I hit a 10? And then you know what you're working towards. So yeah, scoring it is a really good way of doing it.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, the next thing leads us into, the next part really, which is, identifying the areas that are weighing you down so you can reduce the mental and physical clutter. So, leading in from what we were just talking about, how, where does this fit in with that?
Well, yeah, the mental and physical clutter, because when we talk about reducing clutter from our lives, instantly everybody thinks of the minimalism, don't they, of ridding their house full of purging and things, and that's great, because then yes, you feel a bit freer and you have more space. But it's not just the physical clutter, it's the mental clutter. And in some ways, actually, I think the mental clutter that's something that you need to pay much more attention to than the clutter in your house. The mental clutter is, it's not just the to-do list that never ends. It's all the other things that are going on in our head all the time. It's being distracted by the million and one things in the different places and we need to be and where we need to do what we need to do, and the what's next. And you know, the worry about people, what people think, and all the things that have happened in the past to us that we haven't been able, you know, we can't change it and it's happened, but they're constantly playing over in our minds all the time, and being able to let go of that, and that takes up a lot of space in our minds, and if that's constantly whizzing around in our heads all the time, it's difficult for us to actually concentrate and focus on the things that we need to be doing, the things that matter.
Yeah, because half the time we're either spending our time like in the past or worrying about the future, you know. You know, stressing about what's happened in the past and sort of getting caught up in the storyline and the drama, you know. And I always say it is a storyline. Yes, you know, it's been your experience, but now that it's in the past, it is a storyline.
Yeah.
It's a story there, and it's about, you know, we spend either a time there in the past or there in the future, and you can see where my timeline goes, can't you?
Yeah.
But we do, and we spend more time there than we actually do here in the now, the reality of what we're doing now, and just focusing on what's, you know, what we've got to do now and taking the next step from this place now. And we forget actually that what we're doing now, because this is the biggest thing is I find is, you know, and I'm always saying, what we're doing now is what's creating that future. So if we're spending our time worrying about worrying or moaning or getting caught up in the past, we're creating more of it for the future, because that's what we're focusing on now.
Yeah, absolutely, isn't it? Because you can't change what's happened in the past, so you just need to move on and deal with it. And I know that it's easier said than done sometimes, but you have to let go of those things to make room for what it is that you want in the future, and to be able to just pave the way forward, and not let those things actually dictate the person that you're becoming and how you behave from then on.
Yeah. So for you, how would you say this links? Because we've sort of said about being able to reduce the mental and physical clutter. How do those two link? Between the mental and the physical, and you know, what's the first steps for someone to start to identify that?
Okay, the mental and physical clutter side then, I think for eliminating how they fit together is that if you are so overwhelmed with everything that you think that you need to be doing and should be doing constantly, that you can't focus and you're completely overwhelmed. So it's being able to eliminating the unessential of the things that don't matter, of the tasks and things that you should be doing, and that includes the things around the house as well, that, you know, go through from room to room and get rid of the things that you don't need. And sometimes, you know, we can feel guilty and hang on to things because of either sentimental value or that you paid for it and you're not using it, so it feels like a waste to just throw it away. But all of that clutters and it weighs you down, and you feel guilt for it, and you need to be able to let go of those things. So just, you know, purging and getting rid of things as you go around the house, and you can donate and sell and things like that, and get rid of it all. And then the same with the mental clutter is just, like we were saying, is just relieving yourself of those burdens of what's gone in the past, and not worrying about what other people think, not overcommitting yourself as well, of being mindful of what you say yes to, and the expectations that you need to be everywhere and do everything all the time, and then that constantly plays on your head too. So it's just, yeah.
And all of the self-judgment and stuff that goes on, it's just all, you say, just all weighing you down and just stopping you from moving forward. And it's so, you know, one of the things I always say is start to be the observer of what it is that where you're focusing your thought and what you're doing. And just going back to what you said about, you know, sometimes holding on to things, you know, when we're talking about physical clutter, and sometimes holding on to something because you think, I've paid for it and I've not used it, so if I just throw it away, it's a waste. But actually, when we look at that on a vibrational level, that's really putting you in a vibration of lack and you know, money and manifesting stuff. It's all it's energy, and it all needs to flow. So if you're holding on to something because you just think, oh, that's a waste, and it's, you know, I've paid for that, and I'm just going to hold on to it because it's a waste, but you're still not using it, and you're just afraid to kind of, or you know, you've got this kind of negative talk around negative thing around letting go of it. You're actually blocking the flow. You're blocking the flow of, you know, the energy release and coming in and going out. And it's the same as, like, you know, if you kind of get a bit of money and you try and hold that money, I'm not saying you should just, you know, fritter everything away, but at the same time, if you're too scared to spend it, then you're blocking the flow.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Energetic flow. And so, you know, all of that sort of cleansing sort of what's got clearing the stuff that's going on in your head, as well as in physical. And often sometimes, like we said, we're getting caught up in the past. If you're holding on to something then that represents that past for you, then even if you're trying to let it go mentally, there's still an attachment because you've got something physical there. And I think people forget or don't realise.
Yeah, there's definitely that connection, isn't there, between the mental and physical clutter, that when you walk around, if you're seeing something all the time that really is constantly reminding you of an area of your life in the past that you didn't particularly like, whether it's old photos or gifts that somebody has given you or whatever it is, if that clutter is still in your home, then that's also going to translate into clutter in your head as well. And you need to be able to just, like you say, let that go so that it can flow, and you're clearing your mind and freeing yourself of that, both in your personal space around you and in your head. And I think once you've done that as well, is keeping that flow going so that you're not letting it back into your life as well, and you've said goodbye to it, so that it's gone and doesn't creep back in, because if you let it, it will creep back in. The clutter creeps back in the house. We know it, how many times you declutter and get rid of things.
How many times I cleared out that drawer, and every time I look up, it's full again.
Oh, I know. It's like my garage. My garage drives me insane. I am constantly cleaning it out, and I turn around and it's full of stuff again, and it just manifests all back again, and I don't know where it comes from, and I'm sure it breathes, but that's because I haven't got, I haven't still yet got it clear. And it's exactly that. And it's the same with the clutter in your head. If you let it, then those past memories and things will come back to you again, and you're back to square one, and you've just got to accept and move on from those and deal with them and get rid of them.
Yeah, and just talking about that drawer again for a second, how many times as well do you have it and it's full, but actually every time you open it, you only take the first thing off the top. So you could really, I did this the other day, and I looked in one of the drawers where I keep bits of makeup and creams and bits and pieces, and they'll get dumped in there, and I open it up and I take out a hair clip to clip up to blow dry my hair or something, or there's only one or two things in there that I'm using on a regular basis. And I did actually look the other day and thought I could actually just pull this drawer out and tip the whole lot
away,
take those three things out and just go like that. But if you start going through it, what is that that if you start going through it, even though you're not using it, and if somebody came in and just went and took it away without you even knowing, you wouldn't even know what was in there. You wouldn't even know what was in there. Yet if you start to try and sort it, there's something about not being, if you went through it one by one and said, shall I keep it, shall I throw it? There's something there that stops you from just going, no, throw. There's always some bits you go, no, I will keep that because, and there's this reason, this bullshit reason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that just in case thing, isn't it? And that fear of letting go, and I might need it. And
yeah, or I should be doing that, because often it's stuff that we've got because we'd like to be the person that does that thing, but actually we're not. And then every time we look at it, we beat ourselves up because, I'm not the woman that uses that cream on her face every day, or I'm not. I'm talking about one particular drawer, but but whatever it is, beat ourselves up. I put more negative clutter in, coming on in the head, because we tell ourselves, actually, I do want to be that woman that does that. I do want to be the woman that does those exercise things, so I will have those exercise equipment or that, whatever it might be. But so I'm not going to throw it, because why would I throw away that? Because I'm going to use that.
Totally.
So, and we do it with lots of different things, and actually, but actually it's giving us that thing that we beat ourselves up with, as well as having that whole physical thing.
Yeah.
So everybody, go and clear out your drawers.
Yeah, go and clear out, purge everything. It makes you feel so much better. And the reason it makes you feel so much better is because you've accomplished and you've dealt with something, and you've addressed something that is bugging you, that you keep putting off because for whatever reason you don't want to deal with it. And it's the same with the mental clutter, that when you actually deal with it, you feel free, you feel refreshed, and you feel invigorated and ready to start dealing with the next thing, because you finally actually addressed that thing that was bugging you.
Yeah. And so I think, again, it's, I know I keep saying it, but it's being the observer as well. Looking at those things, what is the storyline that's running through your head? What is the bullshit excuse or the reason that you're coming out with as to why you can't do something, or why you can't have this? What's going on? What storyline, if it's stuff getting caught in the past, what is the storyline that keeps playing out?
Yeah.
Be the observer of that, and then look at, because there's be something there, that's looking to be known so that you can release it. So keeps going around, there's something that wants releasing, so deal with it. So look at it, And, you know, that might sound a bit harsh, but it's like, instead of just, you know, getting caught up in it and then trying to forget it, look at it and go, okay, there's something here that keeps asking to be known because it keeps coming up. So what is that? Look at that. And so you can release it and let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything that happens, and you know, everything that happens in the past year is there for a reason. I've always been a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and we're all, you know, whatever it is we're to learn from it, and there's a lesson to be learned. And sometimes we can't let go of something until we've actually realized what that lesson is that we need to learn from it. And then when we have learned that lesson, suddenly it's so much easier to say goodbye to it and move on.
Yeah, and I'm just looking. We've had Aileen join us. So hi there. She's saying hello in the comments. So hello. We're glad to see you're on with us. If you've got any questions for us, please pop them in the comments, or anything that we're saying that resonates with you, then let us know. Give us some thumbs up or some hearts, so we know that you're getting what we're saying. And yeah, and if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments, and we'll answer them for you. So anything else around those areas of clutter, mental or physical clutter, you think people need to know before we move on to the next point?
No, I think that's all good. Yeah. Unless there's any questions, stick them in the comments.
Yes. Brilliant. Okie doke. So then the next thing was, we were talking about prioritising time. So at the moment, we've got to the point of looking at what it is that you really want and really being kind of clear and honest with yourself about that. Then looking at the areas that are weighing you down, the mental things, you know, things that are going on in your head, and also how that's manifesting physically, in your life, in your home, in your car even, you know, in your car, in your garage, in any of your space at all. Looking at that, and then we're moving on to, you know, prioritising the time. So because, you know, to eliminate the overwhelm, because I think there's not a single one of us in this group that doesn't have moments when they just get overwhelmed with stuff. So I think, you know, any tips we can give people on trying to eliminate that overwhelm, and simple ways, you know, so that they can get back on track and stay ahead of the game, because that's it, isn't it? When you feel like you're ahead of the game, because you know, you can always have this thing where you're either feeling like you're chasing and right, I'm trying to catch up, I'm trying to do the things I'm meant to do, and then that feeling of being ahead of the game, and then staying ahead of the game, because finding simple ways to get ahead of the game and stay there simply.
Stay ahead, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm ahead, and now I'm falling behind, and now I'm on catch up again, and I'm feeling overwhelmed again, and I'm ahead. And we all do have those moments, but it's being able to more regularly, you know, get ahead and stay ahead. So tell us all about that.
Yeah, so it's definitely that, isn't it? I think a lot of the thing with the overwhelm is as well is that a lot of it is our own making, and it's the pressures that we put ourselves under, and it's the obligations that we place upon ourselves rather than their internal expectations, rather than from people elsewhere. It's the things that we think we should be doing, and the things that we think we're expected to be doing, or the way we're expected to behave, and it's all expectations that we place upon ourselves. And that can cause a huge amount of overwhelm. So when we recognize that that's what we're doing, that we're being hard on ourselves, and you can let go of that, then that's a great way of reducing a lot of the overwhelm in your life. And a lot of the things that you think you need to be doing aren't actually necessary. And it's okay to say no to things as well. And, you know, we feel obliged to say yes all the time, but we don't actually need to do that. It's okay to say no to things. And, you know, if it's not necessarily a no forever, it's just not right now, and you don't have the time to do it right now. And I think particularly like with your to-do list as well, is you look at them and there's so many things on there, and you look and ask, okay, what is a must do, what is a should do, what is a could do, what isn't really necessary. And you just being mindful of what it is that you want to achieve as well. And if you're saying yes to things, and how you're spending your time, if it's not in line with what your goal is, then there's no point actually doing it. So it's being honest about what it is that you want to achieve. And if you're spending your time on something that's going to distract you, whether it's in your business and your business goals, or your home and family goals, if it's something that's distracting and taking you away from what it is you're trying to achieve, then it's not something you should be spending your time on.
Yeah, and I always have to call out at this point, because straight away what comes up for me is, and what are you using that for to hide out from? Because it's such a big hiding place, isn't it?
Definitely.
You know, the to-do list is a great place to hide.
Yes.
You know, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and it's like, oh, until my website's done and until this is done, it's like, do you know what? A website's a great place to hide out. Because actually you could be getting out there and connecting with people and doing business without having all that shiz down in a row. But it's a very good place for us to be able to hide out and think, I've got to have that done first, and I've got to have this, you know, and that whole getting the ducks in a row, and then being overwhelmed of getting it all done, and actually, it's not happening, and why am I not feeling motivated to do it? Because actually, that's not the thing that's going to get you to where you want to go. So of course you're not feeling motivated to do it.
No, exactly.
Much simpler ways. Much simpler ways.
Yeah, there's that perfectionism thing, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
It's like, okay, so what are you hiding out from? What are you know, because procrastination is the biggest form of fear. I think it's the you know, it's created from fear, and it's a manifestation of fear. It manifests itself and keeps us hiding out by having things like procrastinating over something, or, you know, overwhelming ourselves with something, because you know, a confused mind does nothing.
Yeah, absolutely, isn't it? It's definitely that procrastination thing, and getting in your own way as well, and you're holding yourself back deliberately because you're scared of stepping out and scared of doing things, and you want everything perfect before you do it. But sometimes you've just got to be brave and dive in and just go for it and figure it out along the way.
But I also know that, especially that, you know, this is, you know, you're an expert in all of these areas, but here you really have some good stuff around prioritizing time, and a lot of your downloadables and stuff that you do are around helping out with that. So come on, give us your best stuff.
Okay, so yeah, prioritizing your time is looking at how you spend your time in the first place, what it is, and figuring out what your priorities are each day and what you need to get done, how many hours you have available. And you know, we all say we've all got the same 24 hours, but we're always saying we've never got enough time, but we have. It's just a case of how we're spending that time, and if we're actually doing the right things that, you know, in that time. And you're saying you wanted to do things in the evening, and you haven't got any time, but are you spending all your evenings watching Netflix? Are you, you know, spending all your time just chilling on the sofa when you could be going to that exercise class that you keep promising yourself? Or you could be spending more time with your spouse, and you say you never get any time together, but actually if you switch the TV off and spoke to one another, you could have time together and do things. So if you're stuck and you're not really sure what you're doing with your time, and the best way to get started on that is to actually start keeping a diary of how you're spending your time, particularly with your business as well and your work. Is that if you've got somewhere that you things you want to achieve, but you're not making any headway, is to actually look at how you're spending your time, and are you actually getting sucked down social media and things rather than actually doing what you need to be doing. And, you know, getting distracted watching cat videos and things that we've all been guilty of doing when we should be doing and answering our emails and stuff. And yeah, and then actually claw back that time and figuring out what your time suckers are, where you're being distracted. We've all got time suckers and things that we're guilty of doing, but it's being more clever with how we use our time, and building in things like time blocking and batching your tasks and things like that can really, really help to actually get things done.
And it's funny because, you know, what was just literally going around in my head there, so it's come through, so it needs to come out, is when you were saying that, is the fact that, you know, when I think even over the years, the different things, you know, I'm always about making things simple and, you know, and not try, you know, try not to overwhelm ourselves as much as possible and keep things simple. But actually, when we think about the things, you know, how many things have we bought, spent money on, signed up for, that are all about saving time, making things easier, and yet actually we're our own worst enemy in that area. You know, it's just when you think, and I challenge anybody that's watching this, whether you're watching it now or on the replay, to go, you know, hell yeah, because I know I have done, you know, if I see something, the bit part of it that things that it's almost like that little you know, the magpie thing, the thing that draws me in is like, oh, that's something that can save me time and make that easier for me. And then how many times do we to do that, go for something like that, you know, sign up for it, and then don't actually put it into practice, because we create so many different ways to go, well, actually, I'm too busy to do the time-saving thing.
Yeah, it's the irony of it. It's just,
yeah, I really wanted to read through that and put that into action and get organised with that, because that would really save me time. But I've kept myself so busy with all this other crap that I haven't had time to do the thing that's going to save me time. It's just like, let's just stick a gun to my head, because
Yes.
I'm just like, you know, and I know I've done it. I'm, you know, I'm not sitting here saying that, going, oh, pointing the finger, going, that's what you silly people do, because I know I've done it myself, and I have to catch myself and go, you're doing it again.
Yep. Isn't it? It's so easy to sign up for all these different things and think that that's going to solve the answer and give you the answer that you're looking for, and then you get to a point where you've signed up for or bought so many versions of it that you just don't know which one to start with, and then you're overwhelmed. So let's just pick one of them, stay with it, focus it, give it a chance, and then see what happens, instead of flitting. And I'm terrible. I am constantly being shiny object syndrome and squirrels, and it's, and you've just got to rein yourself in and actually say, no, this is what I'm focusing on right now. This is what my priority is. This is what I've got to work on. And I think every morning when you get up, you ask yourself what your priorities, you know, your 3 main things that you want to achieve for that day. And I think your one that you did on Monday for your morning show was brilliant, where you're talking about to-do lists and creating a will-do list instead of a to-do list. And it's just brilliant. That's exactly what it should be. And otherwise you just end up with this giant long list of all these things on your to-do list that you should be doing, and you never get around to it, and you never do it, and you haven't achieved the things you wanted to at the end of the day. So you look at your list and think, well, I didn't do that, but I did this, this and this, and you write that at the bottom of the list so that you can tick it off, so that you actually feel like you've achieved something.
God, yeah. Do you know what? How many times have I done that? I mean, I used to. I mean, years ago, even I'm not so thinking about it now. But I used to, you know, write lists for literally everything. So even if I was thinking, right, I'm going to do my housework, it would be, I'm going to iron, I'm going to do, you know, and I'd write the list. Do. And if I did something that wasn't on my list, I put it on my list and ticked it off.
Yeah.
And even with that, it's not crazy, isn't it?
It is, it's just a mindset thing, isn't it, to make us actually feel like we've done, because for some reason we've been hiding doing something else when we know we should be doing the things that are on the list. So
it's mad. But I think one of the biggest things here as well in this area is consistency. Like you said, you said, pick one thing and stick with it and do it so that you know it works, or you're doing it, not analyze, but you can at least reflect and say, okay, I've done that and it's not quite worked for me for this reason, but you know you've given it a good shot, and and then you can amend it, you can tweak it as to what does fit. Well, okay, I'm going to do it this way, and I've done it consistently enough to know that if I tweaked it like this, it would make it even better.
Yes,
that's it, I think that's the thing. But when I sort of say to people about doing stuff in a simple way, you've got to do it consistently. And I think consistency becomes we're a little bit of a I say today we're an instant gratitude society at the moment. And so we don't apply the consistency to actually see the results. We give up too quick and jump onto something else, and then we give up on that and we jump onto something else without actually consistently just applying some simple strategies and some simple things and just going, right, but I'm going to do it consistently to get the results. We give up. It's almost like we give up. It's about to peak, and we go, oh,
no, we're not doing it.
I'll look for something else.
Yes.
Peak, and it's like just that little bit more, and it'll be like, woof, off you go.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It is definitely that consistency thing, and you've got to give things time. Things don't happen overnight, and it's the same with making changes to your life. It's the same, with achieving your goals, whatever it is. It doesn't happen overnight, and you've got to be consistent, and you've got to give it time. And if you can't set yourself, I want to lose weight, it's not going to happen within a week. Oh well, I'm going to ditch it now and give up. But you've got to keep going, whatever it is. You've got to keep slowly as the days go by. And I'm a big believer in habits and picking habits that will actually allow you to slowly over time become and do whatever it is that you want to achieve, and actually incorporate that into your day. And if you're 3 or 4 months down the line you've been doing it and you haven't seen any progress, then yes, change it and have a look at what you can do to tweak it. But
you can at least tweak it then based on your own feedback as to what's worked and what's not worked, what makes you feel comfortable, what does, and looking up the reasons why and the real reasons, because you've been consistent, and you can actually then apply that knowledge and that experience to it and tweak it, because half the time it just needs one tiny little tweak and boom, you're flying again.
Yeah, exactly. That's
it. Easier. But I think consistency is the key for so much, whether it's marketing efforts, whether it's we've been making content, but with anything that you're doing, it's being with health and fitness, with even with trying to change children's behaviours consistently. Do you know,
Yeah.
like dealing with children and behaviours and stuff like that. Consistency. You know,
Yeah, it is.
we unfortunately, and as I said, I'm not sitting there pointing any fingers because I've done it myself, given up just at the point. And if you carried on that bit further, you'd be flying, you'd get some kind of result, you'd be able to say, yeah, you've moved forward and you've achieved something. We give up really quickly, and it's like, and it is, we flitter off and we think, oh, that's not working, you've tried it once.
Yeah. It's not doing well, it didn't work, it didn't give me what I wanted, so I'm going to go and do something else. But it's not, it's having faith in what, the decision that you've made, and trusting your instinct and actually following that and pursuing it and keeping it going, and just consistently day in, day out.
And you just said a word that hit the nail right on the head there, and that is the faith as well, because it's that faith and trust in yourself that you've made the right decision to do it this way or to do this thing. And that's it. And if there's no, having that consistency in the faith is what helps you to maintain the consistency, but the consistency also helps build the faith. So they go totally hand in hand.
Definitely.
That is, that's so right, having that faith, because we just, that's one of the things as well. It's not trusting yourself. So you start to waver and go, oh, have I made the wrong decision? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm not sure what that is. And it's that lack of faith that stops you from being consistent.
Yes, absolutely. And it's the knowing your why as well, isn't it, of what the end goal is, of why you want to do something, and how you're going to feel and what you're going to achieve when you get there. Because then if you understand that, that's where you can get your motivation. And then the whole thing, and it keeps it going. Yeah, definitely.
That's it. So, and that's where all of this fits in with, what we're talking about tonight, because we've started off by saying, knowing what it is you really desire and looking at that. And like you say, knowing why. Because when you can keep that as being the thing, as this is why I'm doing this, then that can then, as you say, help you to kind of, keep on track with, keep the consistency going and keep the faith. So keep going and start to see those, those results. And again, then looking at the areas of mental clutter and clutter that is stopping, because they're like the blocks between the having the faith, the consistency, the end desire, and then those, that stuff that's weighing you down, the mental clutter and stuff. That's, when the ego gets hold, and that's the kind of like the blocks in that pathway. So it's all so key. So brilliant. So hopefully, some of those ladies that are watching will recognise some of this, see themselves in that, and and as I say, it's not us two sitting here going, "Oh, look what you all do." We all,
no, yeah, we all do.
Not us. We're perfect.
Yeah, no.
We're so perfect. We've got this down pat. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No.
Because we recognise it and we see that we know this for ourselves and we know it to be true for you, which is why we've we've got to talk about this. We've got to let's get some honesty around the subject and
definitely
how that can help people.
Yeah. And I'll happily admit that I'm the biggest procrastinator and the biggest perfectionist, and and all of that holds me back. And then I start to recognize, like, okay, hang on, Sarah, you're procrastinating. You're going off and you're cleaning up the kitchen when you should be tackling this project instead. Why are you not doing that? And I know damn well that it's actually because there's a fear in there somewhere, or I'm scared to do something, or I don't know how to do something, and I need that faith back in me again. And then you give yourself a kick up the backside and say, right, come on then, let's go and dive in and do this.
Yeah, and totally. And that brings back again to being the observer of what's going on, being honest about it, and going, yeah, okay, I'm being honest, that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm doing it, and let's and here's the fear, and let's go walk through it, because fear is on one side of the celebration, and the magic,
Yeah, I think if something's scaring you, then there's a reason. It's a good path that you need to be going down. Usually, that fear is it's your body's way of saying, "Well, hang on a minute, this is there's something exciting the other side of this, and it's scary." But when I get that, and I get that feel of fear now, I think, okay, this is something that I should be doing.
Bring it on.
Yeah, that's the direction I need to go. It's scary, but it's
scary, so therefore I need to go there.
I need to go there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, and then then the last part of this night is about focusing on your well-being and starting to give yourself the love you need to be the woman that you've got the potential to be. So, and this is kind of like the last piece in this puzzle that we're kind of pulling together this evening. So come on, tell us about that area.
Okay, so well-being particularly is one of my favorite areas, I think, because we spend so much time looking after everybody else and doing everything for everyone that we either put ourselves on the back burner and forget to look after ourselves and our own well-being, or we feel guilty about doing it and we beat ourselves up and say we're not entitled to have time to ourselves, we're not entitled to, you know, look after our own well-being when we've got everything else that we need to do and everything else to do around the home and everything with the kids. They have to come first, that our own well-being gets put on the back burner, really. But we can't pour from an empty cup, and we've got to be able to look after ourselves first if we want to be who we want to be as a mum, as a wife, as a friend, as a parent, you know, as in business. Then we've got to be able to put ourselves first and refuel ourselves. You know, we don't go out driving in our car when we know it's nearly on empty, because we know it's going to stop and run out and we're stuck. We don't carry, you know, we charge our mobile phones every night because we know we need it the following day. And it's the same with ourselves. We have to give ourselves, and there's no reason why we shouldn't give ourselves time to refresh and, you know, rejuvenate and relax and unwind. And we've got to look after ourselves.
Definitely. And it is, and you know, it brings us back to that whole thing that you can't serve others, you know, just, you know, unless if you're not looking after yourself, because that's when you just go for burnout, isn't it?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and you do hit burnout, and then you become stressed, and the overwhelm kicks in again, and then you get all the side effects of the stress, of the headaches, and you can't sleep, and then you end up in a perpetual cycle of you're not sleeping because you're stressed, and then you're tired because you're not sleeping, and you just go round and round and round in circles. And it's, you know, I think it's all areas of your life of looking after your own well-being. So it's back to the mental clutter side as well, but also nourishing your body inside and out and looking after your body, and, you know, actually having, you were talking earlier about the habits of going to bed early and getting a decent night's sleep and staying hydrated and all those kind of things, getting exercise every day and doing all the things that help you keep your body at its optimum peak as well, and your own mental well-being. And they're taking care of outside and in.
Yeah, and it's knowing those things that light you up as well, because they can be small, they can be little things that you just do throughout your day that make you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those tiny, you know, there can be tiny little things that you just make sure that you do on a regular basis. And sometimes, again, you know, when we talk about that clutter and the overwhelm and stuff like that, that it's like, you know, okay, so take a breather, take a walk. Yeah. Get out in nature, get some fresh air, because, you know, we spend so much time, really, you know, when you're running a business from home, you're running a business, you spend, you know, there's so much time that we spend behind our computers and doing actually, you know, I find if I can't think, you know, I've got stuff I need to write, I'm trying to write, or, you know, I'm putting together content and stuff like that. If I'm just behind my computer, I get to the point where I can't think, because it's almost like looking at the screen and thinking, I need to produce something. Take me out for a walk in the park with my pad, because, you know, I'll stick my pad and pen in a backpack and, you know, have my stuff on me and just think, do you know what, I'm going to take a nice walk. I'll stop off at a cafe, have something, you know, like you say, get yourself a nice latte and, you know, and just take yourself out of it for a minute. And then all of a sudden the stuff flows, because actually, you know, how many times when we're driving or when we're in the shower or when we're not sitting there trying to pull it together,
that's when the ideas come to you, isn't it?
So it's remembering to do those little things. You know, I get my best stuff in the shower or when I'm driving along. I'm like, oh God, I need to make a note of that. And
yeah, it is, isn't it?
Brilliant stuff that was that just went through my head. There was nobody here to hear it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You know, and then I just sort of, you know, put it together. I mean, I have some sort of stuff on my phone that I can just sort of verbally, even if I'm driving, I can wake my phone up and just, you know, say it into my phone when I'm driving and tell it to save. So and little things like that are ways of making things like that simple. But, you know, it's the looking after yourself and doing the little things that make you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ones, the downloadables I've got on my site in my resource library is a thing that it's things that make me happy, and it's a list, and it is literally just an A4 sheet of paper, and it's I promise to do at least one of these things every single day, and you just write down on there every single thing that makes you happy, whether it's listening to your favorite playlist or, like you say, going for a coffee, going for a walk, having a bath. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as you do something every day that makes you smile or makes you happy, then that's just another thing that is just that little daily dose to boost your well-being. It's so important. and rewarding yourself when you're, you know, when you've completed tasks that you want to do, because it's so easy as well all the time to be constantly on the go and never stop and never actually give yourself credit for the things that you're achieving, and actually stop and pause to celebrate your wins and celebrate the things that you've done. And that can give a real boost to your well-being as well, is giving yourself time to actually be thankful for the things that you've done and recognize that.
Yeah, and it is like you say, celebrating those achievements, no matter how small. Do you know what? You made dinner and it's a really nice spaghetti bolognese. Celebrate the fact I made a really nice bloody spaghetti bolognese and I enjoyed it. Whatever it is, do you know what I mean? It's because we take so many things for granted that we have to do, and we don't actually look for the stuff in those things that are good about them, and look at, you know, and loving ourselves. Because you can't do that for anybody else unless you're doing it for yourself.
Definitely.
And it, you know, and if you're not, it will create more of all of the stuff we've spoken about tonight. You know, with the mental clutter and you know, being overwhelmed and not being able to prioritise, and you know, just, I mean, always feeling like you're not nowhere near the desires that you've got. That you really, if you're not looking after yourself and loving yourself, and actually a lot of the things, you know, if we circle this right the way back to the beginning, a lot of the things that you find that you have on your list of what you really want from life, it's the feeling that you get from those things.
Yeah, it is. It's the feeling.
It's the feeling that you get from doing those things. And actually, there's a lot of small everyday things you can do to look at part of looking after yourself that give you that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's like we were saying before, wasn't it, about looking at what other people are doing and saying that they want to go traveling and all of those things, but then when they actually comes down to it, that's not really what they want to do, because they don't want to leave their family, whatever, but it's the feeling that traveling gives them, and it's the feeling that does. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're just saying as well about loving yourself, that's so important, because if you want to be really happy, you've got to learn to love yourself and to be kind to yourself. And you know, sometimes the way that we speak to ourselves in our heads is, you know, we can be so mean to ourselves, and there are things that you would never ever say to even your worst enemy, but we say it to ourselves. And it's learning to not be quite so hard on ourselves, and to not put ourselves under so much expectations, and say the sort of things that we do to ourselves, and actually be kind to it and learn to love ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do we sort of go, oh, I had to bite my lip because I would have said something, and you know that we, you know, to somebody else or whatever, and you might think, oh no, you've bit your lip and you've not said it to somebody else, or you've kind of, or you know what I mean, you know, when you're kind of thinking, oh, I daren't say anything, because if I did, I'd be mean, or I'd say something. Yeah, we're doing it to ourselves all the time. I'm not saying that we go around and be mean to everybody, we should be mean to. What I'm saying is we stop ourselves and hold ourselves back. Sometimes speaking our truth, you know, I mean, I'm sort of, you know, always one, you know, when I sort of talk about following your bliss, it's being able to speak your truth, and you know, and love yourself, and following your intuition with things. And yet we hold back from doing that because we don't want to upset other people. We do all that crap to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's all going around in our head, and we just say, you know, it's like we don't bite our lip and not tell ourselves that. That's
no, exactly. Yeah.
We don't think, oh, you know, can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all to ourselves, do we?
No, we don't. We just say it, don't we? And then we beat ourselves up, and then we feel terrible, and we've done it to, you know, we brought it upon ourselves, and we're our own worst enemy. So
so loving yourself, and to do that, you have to really kind of know yourself, know the things that you enjoy, know the things you don't enjoy, know where your boundaries are, and you know, and do the things that, you know, the things that make you feel happy.
Yeah, definitely.
And I always say, saying no to someone else is saying yes to yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Learning to say no.
Yes, definitely learn to say no. It's okay to say no. And, you know, if you struggle, and if it's something that you find really hard saying no, and, you know, it does get easier the more you do it, but those first few times are really hard and you always feel like you have to give a reason as well for why you're saying no, but you don't need to give a reason. You just say, no, I can't do that. But if you're struggling to say no, it's, you know, there's no harm in saying, oh, I'm not sure, I just need to check my diary and I'll get back to you. And it just gives you that little bit of breathing space where you can pause and think about how you actually want to respond, and whether or not you've actually got room for it in your life right now. And you know, a great way of managing your time and reducing overwhelm and eliminating unessentials is to actually have a quota and have an essentials list of the things that are priority to you and what your cap is on what you're prepared to take on. And when you hit that cap, then you can actually go, no, actually, do you know what, I'm fully committed right now, I don't have the bandwidth or the room to take anything else on. And then you don't feel guilty about saying no, because you've already set yourself that quota that you're working towards. And it just keeps that overwhelm at bay, because you've put a little wall there so that you know where your boundaries are, and you know at what point you start to tip over the edge of feeling like you can't cope with things.
And I always say to people, when you start doing that and you start, pick some little things to practice on. To go,
yeah, pick the ones that are easy.
Yeah, but pick something little so that it doesn't feel like, oh God, but I don't know how to tackle that one. Pick something and say, okay, so in future I'm going to say no to this, and this is, I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to move my boundary, and I'm going to say no to this. And pick the simple ones first of all, and gradually build up, because you gain your confidence and you gain your kind of self-esteem, and you start to see how that's kind of fulfilling you more, and how you're, so it can really be such a boost. And then, move on to some of the bigger ones. So practice with some of the smaller ones first, if you struggle to say no.
Absolutely.
Or the one that bugs you the most, and just go, do you know what, I'm going to say no to that in future.
Yeah, definitely.
Challenging myself, I will say no to that in future.
Absolutely, because if it's something that's going to distract you from what you actually want to do, then it's just going to clutter again, isn't it? So you're back to clutter and back to square one. Yeah,
exactly. So again, be aware of why you're saying yes to all of these things, because what is it that you're allowing yourself? Is that another hiding place? If you're hiding out because you're not saying no, and then you're going, oh, well, I was going to do that this week, but then so-and-so happened, and I had to do that for somebody else, and I didn't have time, and it's bullshit.
It's just a way of being able to put your head in the sand and avoid what is actually that you should be dealing with, isn't it? By putting, I'm doing this instead, so I can't do that, but actually it's just another way of hiding.
Yeah, it is. And I want to sit there and go, I call bullshit. Yeah. And okay, be honest. And again, it's back to being honest with yourself. Are you doing some of this stuff as a bullshit hiding out place?
Yeah,
definitely. And stop yourself, because you're not tackling the things that you really want to do, or you're not feeling confident in a certain area. So it's like, I'll just get distracted by that and blame it on that.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're hiding from issues that you need to face up to, but you don't want to, so you go and do something else instead.
Excellent. Okay, so I think, and we've run over quite a bit. I said to you, once we get chatting, we won't stop.
I know, that's it, isn't it? Yeah. Oh dear.
So I think we'll leave it there. So just sort of remind everybody, so it's your website, and you have got lots of downloadables and stuff on there, haven't you? That people use to help them with that. And that is on asimpleandcontentedlife.com. Have I got that right?
That's right, yep.
Yeah, so, and Sarah's in a group as well, anybody, so literally you can just search her in the members, and you'll see her posting and bits and pieces. Anybody watching this on the replay, just pop in and pop in your comments, because we will come back and check and be answering any comments that you've got. And thank you for anybody that was there watching us live. I did try keeping a track on my phone, and I think I managed to keep up with it. That's anything when you do something via Zoom, you can't kind of see what's going on. So I think I did keep a track, and so it's great stuff. The other thing I wanted to remind people about is we have a Coffee and Connections meeting next week, so I'm going to post again in the group about that. So, but do come back, make some comments on here, and we will definitely come back and reply to you. And it's been fantastic talking to you tonight, Sarah.
It's been good fun, thank you.
I think we've given some good stuff there.
Yeah, definitely. I only lost my train of thought once, so that's good. The nerves got the better of me there, but I'm fine now. We got there. It's good fun. It's
good stuff. And I think I'm going to come off now, and we'll leave it to their evening. And I hope you have a really good evening, the rest of your evening as well. And thank you so much for joining me here in the group, because I really do appreciate it. It's good for it's good as well for everybody to get to know people in the group.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's been good fun.
To give some of the benefit, because there's always stuff. There's so many skills that we've got amongst the group, that it's good to help people to tap into that and get the benefit of that as well. That's what it's all about. So thank you again for coming along and joining.
Thank you for having me. It's been good fun.
And bye everybody. And
bye everybody.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.